Hi, this is Laura from LiveVisions.com, and this video is everything Virgo. Whether you have your Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, or Mars in Virgo, this video is for you. If you do not know where your planetary placements are, you may go to my birth chart calculator at the top of the page. However, sometimes it acts a little funny, so you may want to go to astro.com to get your birth placements on their birth chart calculator, okay? I do need a new one, I will admit. Sometimes it shows up in French. I don't know why. I just need a new one. Okay. So, Virgo. What is it? What is the Virgo sign? And I'm going to include this so as people know where I'm talking about with what sign. All right. Okay. So, what is Virgo? Virgo is it's ruled by Mercury. It's an earth sign. It's analytical and it's critical. It is very organized. It is the sign of the zodiac, that basically rules thinking and short distance travel. It's ruled by that planet, okay? So, and these people, sometimes can have stomach issues. I will say Virgos, it rules the intestines. So, for you guys, pretty much, Virgo energy is very energy that can be detailed. Sometimes people can say, oh my God, this person's so anal retentive. And I will admit certain areas of my life I can be totally nitpicky at. And people look at me like, really? And, I don't know why. But I can be a perfectionist at things. So sometimes Virgo people, whether you're ascendant or sun, can be perfectionists, can be nitpicky, can be very detailed. They're the organizers of the zodiac. Those are the people who are like Martha Stewart. They can put together a party like nobody's business. They can organize a closet like nobody's business. If you want someone to organize your life or your closet, or these are the people that would make, for celebrities, how they have an assistant. They would make a great assistant. They're the types of people who can organize, who are detailed, who are great at planning, who they like to do little things to show that they care. And they're the type to do little things that nobody else wants to do, like picking up the laundry, or like cleaning out the closet, or organizing. People don't like doing that. They find it tedious and annoying. And Virgos are like, I'm in. Have you ever watched that show Hoarding? And there's these people who are these professional organizers who come in and they're like, yeah, okay, let's do it. I mean, any normal person would take one foot in one of those places and say, okay, I am so overwhelmed. No, thank you. It's easier to maybe burn the place down or bulldoze it, Virgo is like, no, we can fix this, I'm a Virgo ascendant. I like cleaning. I like organizing myself. But, yeah, some of those shows, I'm like, no. And I will say they could be neat freaks, They could be anal retentive, a little bit like on the neat freak side, They can be nitpicky with little things, If you're a Virgo ascendant, the way that you may dress may be very conservative. You may stick with black. You may stick with cream, white. And they tend to wear more business attire, Yeah. And it's so funny. Back when I didn't know much about astrology, my early 20s, I would kind of, I worked in banking and stuff most of my life, and I tend to wear suits a lot and things. But yet, even when I would go out, I would wear like a nice little, suit outfit, like a nice little skirt dress or whatever, with a suit jacket over it or whatever. And I was always like that. And then I realized after I studied astrology, wow, that's totally the Virgo ascendant. They want to look professional, okay? So these people are conservative, and they have this. Here's the thing. Despite them being very analytical and critical and detail-oriented, okay, they could also be the most giving people, because Virgo people tend to, they want to fix everything and everybody. Let me help you. Oh, my God, I can help you, And it's because Pisces rules their 7th house cusp. And what that means is, especially if you're a Virgo ascendant, okay, and maybe a Virgo sun especially, and I'll go through some of these other planets that may affect you too, but for the most part, you know, they tend to want to help a partner, fix a partner, and they tend to be attracted to the downtrodden, like people who are down on their luck, having a bad time, and people flock to them because these guys have their, you know, they have their shit together, you know, and people who don't tend to seek them out. It's like they tend to want to lean on these people, Virgos, to help them. So I always tell people with a strong Virgo ascendant or has very strong Virgo in their chart, you know, make sure your partner is also, like you're able to lean on them too. Because if it's in balance, it's never going to work, you know. Virgos tend to look at things through rose-colored glasses, like, oh my God, they see the potential in people, and they want to, they like, oh my God, with my help, this person could be so great, or I can totally help this person, which is why Virgos make very good assistants. They're going to make you shine, okay? Let me tell you, they will. So I will say, if Virgo is in a dating relationship or, you know, a long-term relationship, and let's say this person's been out of a job and, you know, living with their mother, Virgo may say, oh, I can help, and then the other person would say, oh my God, no way, this guy's a science project or whatever, you know. Virgo's like, no, 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 with my help I can totally help this person, especially if they're very attracted to that person, okay. So I will say, you need to make sure this person that you're dating is investing their time, their energy, and their money in you. And the reason I'm going into this with Virgos is because it's a huge problem. And especially with me being a Virgo ascendant, I've had this issue myself, okay? So especially if you're a Virgo sun too, you need to make sure that definitely you're going to meet people who have issues. That's just going to be the way your life is going to go. Some of you may think, oh my God, do I have like the scarlet letter on me? Am I like, you know, destined to always meet science projects? Honest truth? A little bit. You know, people who need help are always going to be approaching you, you know, because you may say, oh my gosh, it's like 4 people I dated in a row. Why is this happening? I know I did when I went through it and I didn't understand it. What's going to happen is you have to figure out, okay, the person that needs my help this time, are they needing my help because they're just in a situation at present, or are they consistently putting themselves in detriment where their life is a total cluster bomb, and they're looking for you to clean up their mess each and every time they get into a messed up situation. Now that's different. So you have to decide whether this person is just in a situation at the moment and it's a matter of circumstance. And I'll give you an example. Is this person like living with their mom because they've been out of a job for 5 years and mom does their laundry and cooks and cleans for them, and this guy's in his 40s and doesn't want to move out of his mom's house? Or is he living with his mom just for the month while he gets his house built? Do you see the difference? Okay, so that's what I'm saying. And because Virgos have this such a positive energy of looking at the good in everybody, which is a really good quality, but it's a bad quality sometimes in themselves, because some people seek that out and say, oh my God, I can totally take this person's kindness for weakness, you know. So you need to not only make sure that this person, you're lifting that person, but make sure that you can also lean on that person. The leaning and the lifting need to be equal, okay. And the reason I'm bringing this up now, and I don't know, this video can be used for many years, but this, especially Virgos are going through a huge time, and this is what, October 5 of 2015. So you guys are going through a huge time when it comes to relationships and knowing when to let go, and like when you've had enough. And I think a lot of Virgos are like, I've had enough. And so anyway, so that's that. All right. So all right, let's talk about the moon. So if you have your moon in Virgo, chances are moon represents mother, whether you're male or female. So your mom could have been very analytical, very detail-oriented, like maybe critical even. So if your moon is here, maybe you're critical of yourself because maybe mom was hard on you too. Maybe you're like, oh my God, I have to be perfect because if I wasn't, I was criticized as a child. You know, maybe you feel that way. Some of you, it could just be that mom was very detailed and very critical maybe of herself, and maybe mom was very organized and, you know, all of that. So, and it could be mom was a big communicator. Mom liked to talk because Virgo rules communication, you know. So, but in a man's chart, this rules the wife, okay? So your wife could possibly be detail-oriented, analytical, organized, you know. On a negative side, she could be a little critical, okay? She could maybe even be critical of herself, but maybe she's critical of you, so you have to watch for that too, okay? What else? How do you handle your emotions? If you have your moon in Virgo, chances are you want to talk about what's wrong. You will probably look at a problem forwards, sideways, and backwards to try to figure out a solution to a problem, okay? So, and I think the way that you deal with these emotions is I want to talk about it, I want to talk about it. And where you want to talk about it or who with depends on the house it's in, whatever house you have your moon in, okay? So these people, I would say, could be very detailed about their emotions and critical about how they feel, and, you know, but communication is not just a want, it is a need. You need good communication within a relationship, okay? Again, not a want, it's a need. So if you're with someone who's not talking to you or doesn't want to talk, this isn't going to work for you at all, just saying, okay? This is a need, not a want. All right, so speaking of communication, if you have your Mercury in Virgo, the way you communicate could be, well, you could be critical in the things that you say. You could be you would be good, I want to say, if you're an artist or you do anything creative for work, or where you're looking for loopholes in something, or maybe a lawyer, or if you're anything where you have to look for details or find mistakes, or this is the sign to do it, because Virgo and Mercury is so detail-oriented, and they can find loopholes, and especially, you know, you're very critical. You have a very critical eye, and you may say things like, "Hey, I noticed this isn't right," or, you know. But you have to be careful, though. Sometimes people with Mercury and Virgo are very blunt. They can say things. Remember, this is not a water sign. So this is Earth. So there's not as much sensitivity with this communication. So they would be like kind of blunt with what they have to say. So if you say, you know, does my butt look big in this dress, somebody with a Virgo, Mercury in Virgo may say, yeah, it looks huge, wear something else, you know, you know what I mean? You'd be like, gee, thanks. But they're very critical, and if you think that's bad, they're probably even more critical about themselves. Okay, but their communication could be very blunt, very to the point, very like not so direct like a fire sign, but I want to say detailed, critical, honest. If they see an error or a mistake or something that has a flaw, they will point it out. Okay, because that's their thing. That's what they're meant to do. With Mercury in Virgo, that's what they're meant to do. They're meant to communicate and be detailed in their communication, okay? Look at the finer points and look at the little things that maybe other people don't and point it out. So that is who they are. Okay. So, and if you guys are dating someone who maybe has their Mercury in a water sign, you may want to be careful of what you say and how you come across, you know. Especially if they have their Mercury in a water sign, because people who have Mercury in water are very careful about what they say. Meaning not that they watch what they say, but they're always looking to make sure whatever they're saying is not going to hurt another person. Where Mercury in Virgo is like, well, it's the truth. You know, your butt did look big. You know, so you know, so you may just want to be careful if you do have a partner with this placement to be very, you know, conscious of that. You know, that's all I'm saying. I'll be honest with you, I dated a guy with this, and everything was a criticism. I mean, this doesn't mean that every guy with this is going to be that way, but this is just him particularly. Plus his Mercury was also conjunct Mars, so he could be very, like, not so nice when he said things. People who have Mercury conjunct Mars can have a potty mouth and bad language, and anyway, so there was more to his chart. But he had this placement, and he would just be very critical of how I looked, my makeup, my hair, every single thing. Finally, I just said, look, I think you need to meet somebody else, because he made me start to feel bad about myself as a person. So I'm like, no, you know, I think I need to move on. I can feel bad all by myself. I'm a Virgo ascendant. I'm already critical of myself. I don't need help. Thank you very much. So, but anyway, just be cautious of this. All right. So if you have, let's talk about Mars. If you have Mars in Virgo, you could be the type, Mars is your energy as a person, okay? Mars is also what a woman is attracted to in a man, okay? So that's why they always say, you know, what we attract is like a mirror to us, because what we put out is what we get back, you know? So it's like what you're attracted to is kind of like your own type of energy. So, okay, so let's talk about what is the Mars energy. It's critical. It's analytical. It's very detail-oriented. It looks at the little things. It's the type of person who says, you know, these are the people who could be, I want to say, maybe compulsive about certain things. You know, I know that I don't have my Mars in Virgo, but I know that sometimes with cleaning I could be a little bit like, well, I can't leave until stuff's put away. Like, people are like, just leave it until you get home. No, I can't leave my house a mess, you know. So, like, maybe this, you know, Mars in Virgo could be very detailed, very organized, you know, very, I know when I get orders on my website, you know, it's like, well, why didn't they fill out their birth information on the same page with the link? A lot of people forget to fill out the link. And I'm like, oh, now I can't get that done today, because I like to get stuff, as soon as I get it, I like to get it done. You know, I don't want to wait, you know. So, but anyway, that's kind of the anal retention stuff about Virgo. But Virgos, that energy could be very detailed, very organized, very much about things go where they need to go. Very, you know, these people could be very critical in their energy and very analytical and very critical of themselves. You know, that could be it as well, okay? But they could also be huge givers. People with Mars in Virgo, I want to say, could like to do the little things for people. Like, oh, don't forget, Virgo is ruled by the 6th house, and that is service to others, okay? People with Mars and Virgo may be like, oh my God, I totally could help this person. I could totally, you know, this person needs help this week, and I know I could fit into my schedule, so I can totally help this person. You know, that's the type of person that they are, you know. So, you know, when I say analytical and critical and all that other stuff, these are also the Martha Stewarts of the Zodiac. They could put together a great party. They can put together a wedding like nobody's business. And they could also be detailed and creative, you know. So, you know, it's not always a bad just because someone's critical or analytical and detail-oriented and can be a little anal. I know I make it sound bad, but it's not always bad. These people can be magnificent at, you know, it's like they will run around doing the little things that other people don't want to do for other people's benefit. In other words, they're the best people to, like, throw together a huge party because they love doing the details where other people don't, you know, and they're good at it. All right, and they're great at helping others with things like, you know, if somebody needs help, they're the first to say, oh my gosh, you know, I can totally help you with that, you know. So they're good, you know. This type of person is very organized. I bet you would have a very neat and clean home, you know. So, okay, unless they're depressed. Unless they're so hard on themselves or depressed, then it could be a different story. All right, so that's just the Mars and Virgo energy. Okay, and sexually, for men, Mars with Virgo, because Mars is also how you flirt. You might want the room to be, let's go with a man first. So you might want the room to be very certain way, like beautiful and perfect, and you may want everything tidy and neat, okay? And you may plan everything and how you're going to ask and what she's going to say, you know. But you can be so into the details, you know, that, you know, you could be maybe even so critical of her, like, you know, maybe you want everything too perfect, you know. And some men, I want to say, who've called me for readings have been the type of guys who are waiting for a bus that's not coming with this placement. You need to be careful. If the girl is kind of like taking your gifts, allowing you to buy nice dinners and taking her places and doing things, and you feel like she keeps blowing you off and not, you know, and you're like waiting and waiting and waiting, you know, you need to move on, because Mars and Virgo with this placement can be like the guy who's putting in so much effort and trying to make something with someone that he's seeing the potential in it, but maybe the girl is not reciprocating that, you know, and he's hoping and hoping. And so you need to be careful of this with this placement. I've had a few clients with it, and they're the most giving guys, and it's like, I feel so bad. It's like, well, it looks like you might need to move on. All right, so if you're a woman and you have your Mars in Virgo, this is the type of guy you're attracted to, okay? You want the guy who is willing to save the damsel in distress. You want the guy who does the little things. You want the guy who's detailed and organized and goes out of his way for you. You want the guy who perhaps is a very neat appearance. Perhaps this person is very, suit and tie kind of a person. I mean, there's a neatness to him. You may like this person's, this is a very communicative person that you're attracted to. Very detailed, very grounded, very earthy. Very practical type of person, okay? So this is the type of person that you're attracted to. And this guy is going to do the little things to show he cares, So this is what you're drawn to. But ladies, because this is what you're drawn to, and Virgo is such a critical and analytical sign, make sure that you don't have the unthinkable checklist. In other words, you could be so critical that, if his someone, oh, he's kind of balding a little, I don't know if I can date him. Or let me think of something sillier. His second toe is bigger than his first toe, and I don't know if I can date somebody like that. It's so critical and so analytical about this. So you need to make sure that you're not cutting your nose to spite your face, so to speak. Like, you could pass up a great guy just because of something stupid or silly. What I see is if the person has 80% of what you're looking for, you may go for him. Because Virgo, this placement tends to be where somebody wants 100% and they're not going to settle. And then all of a sudden they're 40 and 50 years old and alone. And you're like, and as you get older, your list will get smaller and smaller, but you try to keep your list as long as you can for as long as you can, So you don't want to do that, okay? So let's go to Venus. Venus in Virgo. So if you have your Venus in Virgo, if you're a man, this is the type of woman you're drawn to, okay? This is, I want to say, you yourself could have the unthinkable checklist when it comes to women. Maybe, you could be just so silly about your list. How some people have a list of maybe this color hair, this color eyes, this how tall. Your list could be even more detailed. Like I said, the second toe is bigger than the first toe and you just can't have it. Or their toes have to be painted in a certain way. And, I'm just talking about this because it's, I'm just thinking of something silly. But it could be something as minute as that, that you would be like, okay, she wasn't perfect enough. I'm moving on. So you really want to be cautious that you're not doing this. And I want to say, I did talk about Mars and Virgo too, but it's usually men who more so do this than women, I have to admit. Okay, even though women do this, but men more so. And you'll see a lot more guys single later in life because they're so picky. Okay, so, but also the type of woman you're looking for is also analytical. She could be critical. She could be a communicator. She could be conservative, practical, detail-oriented, very organized. She could throw a great party. She could be, she could be just as critical of herself, as maybe you are of her, But you're looking for this, and she could be a very giving type of person too, the kind of woman you're drawn to. She could be, wanting to help. Let me help. Oh, I know I can do this for you. They're very giving. You're attracted to a very organized, detail-oriented, practical, very giving type of person. Now, if you're a woman and you have this placement, one thing you have to be cautious of is a lot of people with this placement will give and give and give and give and, to get love. Okay, because Virgo, don't forget, is ruled by the 6th house of service to others. They will give and give and give and, to get love back. And these are the people who well, oh yeah, I can do your cleaning or I can do your laundry and I'll make dinner for you, all that stuff. But you need to make sure that your partner's not taking your kindness for weakness and that you're being appreciated for everything you're doing. I will say too, you need to make sure that, the person, if you want to do all this stuff for someone, that's great, but just make sure that they're investing in you too. The man is investing his time, his energy, and his money in you, and you know that he's serious. And I would say make sure maybe hold back a little bit on the overdoing the giving stuff for a little, just because the way you flirt, Venus is also the way you flirt, okay? You show that you're detailed. You show that you're organized. You show that you're practical. You show that maybe, I would say that you're giving and you want to help other people. And in doing that, sometimes you're like, oh my God, but I can help you too. I know that you're having this issue and I'm totally, because that's how you flirt. You show this giving nature, but sometimes people can take your kindness for weakness. So just be cautious of this. And Venus is also where you make money, And Venus in Virgo, you could be making money, anything with computers, astrology, accounting, media. You could be a doctor. You can work in healing fields. Anything that has to do with communication really is where you would make your money. All right? Those are just some examples. All right? Well, I hope this video was helpful to you. And if you like the video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you want a reading from me, I will put a link on the video and you can book one. But I wish you a great month, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.